All right, 1917 is my personal favorite war movie. And I know that there are a lot of good ass war movies, but I remember seeing this at the Tall Theater in Swickley. I know, John, you've probably been there.
That's also where I saw this movie.
Yeah, back when it first came out, and it was like, I remember watching it, like, I can remember that day so vividly. So it always, like, it's very nostalgic for me, even though it came out in like 2019. I remember that very fondly, but I do enjoy how the theme of the movie kind of reflects the theme of World War One. Like, I think the entire movie just gets everything kind of right. Like, it doesn't come off as like gratuitous or disrespectful or like hard to believe. I think like down to like the directing style and the choice to even make the movie look like one shot is all like reflective of World War One. So I am going to give this movie a 9.8 out of 10.
Oh my god!
Oh my!
What? Why?
Yeah,
what,
strongest rating.
Why?
Nice.
What? What about the other 0.2%?
God forbid you give it a 10.
There's got to be like some X factor to get it up to a 10.
Oh really?
Yeah, I don't know why. I can just feel that this movie's like a 9.8, not a 10.
I have a very like
Okay.
conflicting view, so I'm gonna go next.
Sure. Yeah.
Anyways,
Oh yeah, fuck everyone else.
Chris didn't watch the movie, so
no,
Yeah,
this
let him
movie
go,
doesn't
let him lie.
like 1917 does like the thing that I like the most about it is I feel like it accurately depicts like a soldier in World War One and like the type of things that they would see. Obviously that's like kind of helped out by the shot in one take thing to where it's like it makes it feel like you're actually there. But like for me, I personally like movies that really delve into character and plot, and I felt like this movie kind of relied on the gimmick of the one shot thing a little too much, and that's just my view of it. I think it's genuinely good. Like I understand why people love it, but for me, it's more of like a 6.5 and not like a near perfect movie. Just because I never felt like I never felt extremely attached to the characters of the movie, and that's just kind of my view of it.
If I may go next to sort of build off of that, I think I kind of feel the same way Sam does. Definitely not in the highest like of like rankings, but in the sense that this is a war movie about two just regular guys. Like they're not. I think like them not having super deep backstories or anything like that is kind of working in favor of this movie, especially considering kind of the context behind the First World War, in that, you know, all of the men that fought in that war are referred to as the lost generation because they're an entire generation of young men that are just dead, that fought in a war that like ultimately didn't really matter. And so I think it kind of is reflected a lot in this movie, especially considering the one take nature of it, where it goes, it's like a very it has this real time feel to it, where this is just a moment in this war where you're covering two just regular infantrymen, and I think that works to its benefit. But,
yeah, I mean,
yeah, go ahead.
let me butt in for a second. I 100% agree with everything you're saying, and I like I said, I understand why people would why someone would love it or why they would like rate it like a 9 or above. But for me, like it's hard for me to love a movie that much without the character development behind.
yeah,
But yeah, I fully
I think
understand. Anyways,
I think your criticism, sorry, not to jump in like too much, but I think Chris and our differences literally just come down to personal preference. It's not like our critique of like,
100%.
Yeah.
I think it's good, you think it's bad. Like it's just personal preference.
yeah,
Anyway.
I understand how like crazy like how big of a flex it is to film a movie like this. But
So Chris,
yeah, just for my
6.5
preference, 6.5. Yeah, go ahead, John.
John, where are you grading this on the Roy G. Biv? What color are you feeling?
Roy G. Biv. I don't know. This movie has kind of like some like a bit of green to it in the like the hue of the color grading, but
I like that. Like a dark green?
sort of, yeah. It's kind of like it's got like that like in
A
some
dull green.
some scenes it has like sort of like late 90s like Matrix kind of green look to it. There's a specific shot that I'm thinking of, but I will say though, like one place I think this movie kind of falters is exactly in the same place where I think it succeeds, is in the one take style of it, because there are certain instances where they're really stretching thin how they achieve that one shot. Like I'll just like make mention of it. There's a part towards the beginning when they're walking through no man's land and the camera just like it's a tracking shot. It's like following them, and the camera just goes in front of like a pile of dirt for like 5
Yeah.
seconds.
It happens so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Anyway, what sorry, I don't mean to cut anybody
sure.
off, but we do
That's
need
like-
to hear from Nate and Cole.
yeah,
This
Just
is
get
the
to
first.
intro.
I don't want to Christopher Judge at the Game Awards.
I'm very
Talk
interested.
forever.
That's all I'm saying.
But I like this movie though. I think it definitely does rank pretty highly amongst war movies. I think it's a very competent in every aspect of it, especially the look too. It looks fantastic. Roger Deakins on the cinematography. He did No Country for Old Men, the Blade Runner sequel, I think he did as well. So
Nice. Nate, you
Go
can
ahead.
go.
Well, you can go next. I'll go last.
Okay. I feel like I'm kind of on a similar like page as John. I think visually this movie was like really, really cool. Just like seeing them in the trenches in no man's land. It just looked exactly how you would picture World War I to look. And I thought that was really interesting. But kind of similar to what John was saying, like the whole one shot thing, I think kind of hurt the pacing of the movie. Like it wasn't really structured like a movie. It just kind of felt like a series of events to me. Like it didn't seem like a story that was I don't know, as thought out. And then the ending kind of hurt it for me, specifically when spoiler, he travels the whole way and then he finally gets to the general and he basically kind of says what he did was meaningless because all he did was buy them some time and they're going to end up attacking anyway in like a month. And that kind of just hurt the rest of the movie for me because it's kind of like, oh, these people are probably going to die anyway because like they're still going to charge no matter what and they're still going to fight and everyone's going to die and they're going to move like an inch forward. And
I know. Imagine if that happened in real life.
No, I get why they made the movie like that, to where it is like exactly like what happened, to where like blah blah blah. People, you know how World War I ended, basically. Anyways,
Somber movie.
Yeah, but 100%. But I just think it hurts the story and the narrative of the movie.
Yeah.
And like I again, it's like, okay, I get that someone could look past that because they understand that like this might be like the most realistic. I'm a soldier in World War I. Like I just want to like experience that like along with the characters, but there's no narrative to like follow along or to like root for. I feel.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that makes it really cool, but I don't know if that makes it like an enjoyable movie for me, you know? Like if I was like a historian,
enough.
I would love this movie because it does kind of capture like the spirit of World War I think. But just as a movie, I don't know. But overall, I'm giving it a 7.5 because I do think it's very good. But I don't think it's as good as like I thought Warrior was. But I do think it's very good.
Yeah, I agree. Warrior. I preferred Warrior over this. Anyways, Nate, what's your opinion?
Yeah, I feel like people were actually gonna be a little surprised with my opinion, but I really like this movie. Like, I feel like it like you guys said, it's a very like you're gonna be into this type of movie or you're not. You know, like I'd honestly give this a 9. Thinking about it from what I've heard from you guys and what I felt about the movie. But 3 things that I would address on why I really like it. Like you said, you don't like that it's kind of a somber ending. I feel like there was a kind of a background theme throughout the movie that like, yeah, it is a somber ending, but you're supposed to see like he did a lot of good stuff there no matter what else happens throughout the war. It wasn't about the whole war. He was just trying to save that one, like do that one good thing. You know, he was just doing what he had to do right then. And I actually, like you guys talked about the look of the movie. I love like the colors in the movie, I think are very beautiful. I really like the one shot style. Like you said, there is awkward moments. Like, but it's
Very
part of what
boring
you take
moments.
when you take on that endeavor. There's a lot of like it's very difficult to make a movie look like that. Like that's a ridiculous amount of effort. I think the movie was definitely incredibly beautiful. I do think they could have played up the music a little more for those parts where there was kind of lulls. Like there was definitely like not a lot of music playing, just a lot of real sounds. You know what I mean? Like, which is cool, and I think that is one place where the realism kind of missed for me. I would have enjoyed them playing up the music and making it feel like a movie more in those scenes, but that's like a very minimal criticism. Like, and then I really like all the actors in this movie. I think they made great choices. I think Benedict Cumberbatch killed it. I like that they had
They
something
really,
added.
they
What
really
is his
had
first
Benedict
name?
Cumberbatch for 5 seconds of
That
the
was
movie.
something
Yeah.
that
For like
I
a
was,
5-second role.
I was
That was
kind
the
of
biggest
annoyed.
plot
annoyed.
twist of the movie.
I
Like,
really
I was
like
like,
that
I
choice.
saw him in the credits.
So do
Only
I.
reason I knew. Sorry, go ahead.
I really like that choice to do that with those big name actors because I feel like if they were one of the main characters, it would take away from
From the
like the point of the
realism a little
movie is
bit.
that these are just any random person. This kind of is going off of what Chris and John were talking about, like the fact that they're not built up, like their backstory isn't built up as much like at the beginning. Is because this is just any random soldier you pick out in like 1917 fucking France. Like, and if it was Benedict Cumberbatch, you'd be thinking, "Oh, what's Benedict Cumberbatch going to be doing next?" Like, I feel like that kind of like plays it up,
I remember
and the
that.
fact that
Yeah,
the big name actors play the generals, like, kind of gets you to think like
This like the
kind of
5-minute role,
subconsciously, like those are the names everybody knows, like as generals, but we also know them
and
as
they
the
did
actors.
nothing.
Yeah, I
They did
remember
nothing
that
in this
kind
story.
of bothering me when I first saw this movie. Like, Colin Firth at the beginning, and then Benedict Cumberbatch at the end. They have like 5 minutes, maybe even less total. But I guess that is something that it's not necessarily aged better in my mind, but it doesn't like it's not, I don't think, to its detriment at all. And I think like it kind of works in that way that you said, Sam. It's like, you know, they are in this instance just regular people, like how soldiers in that war were just regular
Yeah.
people.
But
Yeah,
but I
dude,
feel like we
I-
never got a motive. Like what does this mission mean to? I don't even know the name of the main character.
No, the main
What is that-
character's
what is
name
it-
was
what-
cool as hell. That's what I wanted to say. Schofield.
What's it?
Schofield.
Schofield,
Sweet
William
name.
Schofield.
What is his motive?
William
Like how
Schofield.
does the
His
motive
motivation.
Of
Well,
go ahead.
you see, you're thinking of it in like a monetary or like he's really gaining something kind of way. There is a very clear point in the movie, like especially when they talk about his medal, and he's like, "I didn't want it. It
That
didn't
was
mean
the
anything." It's that he just
only
does
character moment of the movie
good
was when he was like,
things.
"I don't like medals." That was it.
No,
See, you're
I
only
disagree.
talking about
I disagree with that,
specifically
too.
dialogue. That's something I wanted to mention, Chris. There is physical actions that go on constantly throughout the movie where he shows who he is. but doesn't exactly
I
talk
feel like
about it,
the movie's purpose is to
which I like that.
put you
Show
in the
over tell.
realism of World War One in this like one shot take. Boom,
I
we're
think
here.
you got a little caught up in that, though. That's what I think.
But it influences the pacing of the movie so much.
Spectacle.
Every
The movie tastes
scene.
bad.
But yeah, I thought
I
it
disagree.
didn't even feel like 2 hours.
Oh, got some
No,
harsh
it-
disagreement.
It's just
Chris is
there's
very
a lot of like
passionate about
10
this.
minutes. Yes, I am. I'm very passionate about the one take in this specific case
Spell
because
it
I do
all
think
out
it's a
for us.
gimmick that makes like this World War One, this thing that we all know about. We've probably seen other World War One movies. It's an interesting like gimmick to get me invested, but outside of that, I don't feel like compelled by the characters. And like after the bunker scene where the dude like gets like
The Claymore.
the booby
I
trap
wanted to
and
talk
whatever.
about that.
Little
There's
dust
a-
in his eye.
Right after that though, there's like a 10-minute scene of them just walking, and I'm not gonna lie, I did not like. There was just so much dialogue that I don't know.
See,
I wasn't
I
necessarily
enjoyed that.
super
though.
That's what,
interested
the
by
character. That's what they talk about the
Exactly.
characters.
Yeah, that's the characterization. You were like, oh, they didn't get it. That was it. You missed it.
Okay. This is fair, but again, it comes back to like it's my. Like, it's let me just say this: it's my
I was
preference.
cool with what you were saying until that
Show
part
don't
right
tell.
there.
Show like the whole aspect
Yeah.
of show don't tell, and it's just 10 minutes of them literally just talking and walking. A scene that would like be cut out of most movies, I feel,
Don't you
and done
think
in like a
that's a bit
faster
more-
sense, or like
I
part of the
disagree.
scene.
They would
but
just be
can't cut
talking
it.
in a room or something.
Don't you think that's more realistic?
They would just be
though?
talking in a room or something.
Yeah, 100%. It's more
Like,
realistic.
see,
but
I think
don't think it
I
makes
think
for a
you're not
better
as
movie.
used to them not cutting.
100%.
Like
That's a fair
you're,
point.
Yeah.
I think if they were cutting a lot more, you wouldn't be saying.
And if
that.
you're in it to try
Like,
to
cutting
really get
between
in,
the
like, I
characters.
think this is the most realistic World War One movie that you could possibly have, outside of like a direct documentary or like
the most
specifically
realistic
describing what
World War
happens.
One movie would be
He
them
did
sitting
eat
in
a
a
claymore to the
trench.
face.
They'd be sitting in a trench for
Yeah.
6 months, and then they
Someone
die
just
of
put
dysentery.
an
Everybody
infection.
gets trench foot.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Everyone's
it
foot is getting cut
yeah.
off every day.
But that's my point. It prioritizes the realism of these like characters more than the actual narrative of the movie, which for me is just like. And I feel the need to keep saying this, but like it's just not my preference. I'd rather like hear
I
the
get
story
Sure.
of the characters
Mhm.
overcoming something rather than.
Well, can I say one of my favorite parts then? Like one of my favorite
Yeah, 100%.
scenes in the
Yeah,
movie
sure.
is actually, and I actually have problems with right after it, but that part when he runs in right after his friend dies, which it seems like right before and right after do seem pretty unbelievable. That's where I would say the long take shit kind of hurts it, because like stuff just happens. It's like
The squad
he
just where did they come
died,
from? Like,
and then right
five
and they
people
walked
pulled
up like
they just pulled up
yeah,
from
they
nowhere.
pulled up right then.
Didn't even see the car.
And then-
like they were right
Well,
there.
he called
like,
he shot the flare out to let him know that the trench was gone.
Yeah, I
They
know, but it was
said that,
just
like,
they
right
said that
then.
they
Well,
only
actually, they
came
showed up
because of the
plane
crash.
crashed.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
So it was just
Yeah.
random and
It's-
unrealistic. But which
it's
is
not.
fine.
See, that
Again,
wouldn't ruin it for me, but it does feel weird.
it
Yeah,
doesn't ruin
I
it
have
for
to
me.
go back
and then
and
right
watch it.
after,
Yeah.
right after that is a part I find funny where they're sitting at the bridge and they're like, "We can't go with you." And then as soon as he crosses the bridge, he starts getting shot at. It's like, what was that dude doing when they were sitting there talking? They just didn't.
Since I had seen that before, that's what I would have done too. Because if you shoot and there's like 100 guys, then you're fucked, bro.
Yeah, they're
like,
all
you
going to come
can't,
after
like,
you. That's fair.
with
I
the
didn't
bolt
think
action
about that at the
rifle.
time.
That guy's got like 30 rounds on him max, and he's gonna have to reload after every 5. Like I can see
It's
that.
just
I wouldn't
him.
do that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and he sucks at
It's, uh,
shooting because he couldn't kill one dude. So
Yeah, he really fucking sucked
but-
at shooting. Yeah,
he really blew it, dude. He had he was gonna get the battle
Everyone in this
royale,
movie
and he
couldn't shoot.
fucking
Everyone.
he was head glitching.
That's
He was
true.
head glitching in the
Well,
tower.
I actually like when he was running and they were like trying to chase him, but they weren't like stopping to shoot, and that was like making them miss a lot.
Yeah.
I did think that was like a cool little thing to include.
I have
But they
something to say.
stopped and shot him. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
yeah,
there's
that's the only
there's a
like
scene.
thing.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, go. No,
I was
please,
gonna
please,
say,
please, I interrupted
there's
you.
a scene where like when they're in like the burning town where he's just standing there not moving in the middle of the street, and there's another guy standing there staring at him, and neither of them do anything. And then the
That's-
guy's like
until he
5
starts
feet
running.
behind him, missing over and over again.
That-
Yeah.
So them,
Definitely-
them staring
I mean,
at each other.
It's a little bit of disbelief.
That's
Them
Stormtrooper
staring at
aim.
each other is actually consistent with what happened in World War One. Like soldiers would routinely like find
They had
other
to use
like
the uniforms.
people. Yeah, they would see them and be like, "Oh, there's a bunch of Germans over there," and they would start like calling them names and throwing rocks at them. And like it just never occurred to them to kill people because they didn't train like shoot on sight, kill no matter what.
They
Like
trained to sit in a
it's not
trench.
it's not
yeah.
human instinct to just kill people randomly.
Kill somebody.
They even squashed
Yeah,
their beef on Christmas. They would play soccer.
Yeah.
Christmas.
Like nobody
Yeah.
wanted to
I
fight.
mean, no
in
one
World
wants
War
to
One.
be at
Yeah, it's
war.
true.
Like in reality, like in movies, they make it seem like there's a good guy and a bad guy, but realistically, they're all just people.
Yeah.
At the
There
end
was
of
a
the day.
term for it in World War One. They called it trigger finger frostbite.
Oh.
Where
Really?
they would
That's
like
a
aim at
cool
somebody and they
little
physically
name.
could
I
not
like
pull the
that.
trigger.
Wow.
Yeah, that was like the slang.
Yeah, well,
for
you
it.
got to
Yeah.
kill somebody. That's not easy.
They just physically couldn't do it.
But
yeah, I don't know. I love
I
World War One. I know a bunch of shit, but like, yeah,
super
Wait, you
interesting.
love
I
World War
forgot to
I?
mention the
Or
scene
you-
I was.
yes.
Sam is a big fan of World War.
Same as a
One.
World War One supporter.
Sam was a big,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
a big King George fan.
No, but
My-
all right, I'll say my favorite part that what maybe like got looked over a little bit was there's one shot in particular where they're crossing. It's when they're in no man's land and they pull up on that big crater that has like that little like lake or pond in it, and the camera like tracks over the middle of the pond. And I have absolutely no idea how they got that shot because it's super steady.
I think it was
There's no
multiple
ripples
takes,
in the
right?
water. I
Multiple
don't know
takes
because
together.
maybe they morphed like two like frames together.
I think it's
Maybe that's how they
maybe.
did it
That's kind of
because they
I don't
show
know.
you the
That
whole
would be
pond.
something interesting to look up.
The camera also traveled on wires for its trip through no man's land. It could very easily be unhooked from these wires by a camera operator.
Yeah,
I'm pretty
I
sure
remember
that's what it
seeing
is.
that, and I'm like, how the fuck did they even like get that set up? But yeah,
Get that
Chris
shot.
was
There was a
probably
couple
right.
shots like that.
Yeah, I really like that.
I
The
forgot
whole
to
them
mention
crossing no man's land was fun. Go ahead, Nate.
that was really cool part.
Yeah, dude, when he
Mhm.
puts his hand
Yeah.
inside the guy's body, holy
Yeah.
shit! Like that, like
It's-
grossed me the fuck out.
His hand wound is absolutely infected after
little
that, by
bit.
the way.
Oh, sure,
Oh my
yeah.
god,
He's,
yeah.
He's gonna
he's
die.
probably getting that
Wait.
amputated.
When
Wait,
he
who-
gets the barbed
sorry.
wire hand.
Was
And
it
he
the main
sticks it in the
character who
body.
cut their hand? Right.
Oh, that was
Yeah.
gross.
Yeah.
Okay, just making sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
it's
it was
because the other guy
the main
jumps in
character.
and he gets scared of the other dead body and he jumps and knocks him into
And
it.
just
Yeah,
yeah.
dude. Yeah, I remember.
I would be pissed.
Was
I
anyone
remember
else
watching this?
Good.
Oh, go ahead, Chris. No, go ahead, please.
Well, I was gonna ask, like, was anybody else particularly surprised? What was the guy that died in the middle of the movie?
Blake, right?
Yeah.
I thought he was
Blake.
going to be the main character.
Yeah,
I thought he
same.
was too.
like
Blake,
he had
yeah.
the motive of like going to see his brother and then he dies. Like that was
He
extremely surprising.
Well, I
Yeah.
think that's something
No-
that makes it good too.
Yeah,
no
I thought that
good
was
deed goes
really good.
unpunished.
And he did a great job.
One thing
that
I loved
actor.
about this movie actually was the opening shot. Like that first shot of them where it starts
Yeah.
just like showing the field and then it comes
Did
down
you-
to them and then it takes you. That was so cool.
Did you notice that like the first and the last shot are like basically the same? And it's kind of like that.
No,
like,
yeah, I
whole-
noticed that because the tree.
that whole
And
part
right
is
when they
like
started.
reflective
Yeah.
of World War One, where like it was all kind of for nothing. Like it's just exactly the same.
Yeah, it
when
did
it
nothing.
ended. I was like, yeah, that's pretty sick. Like a good bookend.
Here, but I just want to get this out because I've been trying to say it for like 10 minutes. But the scene where he helps them get the car out of the mud, that was probably my
Yeah.
favorite scene in the movie. Like
Yeah.
I
Okay.
really like that because that once again, that's characterization without saying anything. Is like that he's
Yeah.
really willing to just do it. Like he he motivates the rest of them to start helping and stuff. Like I think that's makes him seem like such a
That's
great.
what
It
a
makes you
hero
like
does.
him a lot.
A hero acts unconditionally.
I just thought
Yeah.
this was funny and
Well,
not
that's what
necessarily a
makes someone a
criticism.
hero. That's what I think is. Sorry.
No, go
Go
ahead,
ahead.
Nate. No, you
Oh,
guys were
well,
talking.
I was gonna say that's really what makes someone a hero. Like it's not something you are; it's just something you do. Like
Yeah.
he just did what he had to do.
Without
he chose to
being
do it, and no one else
told
did.
or asked, without looking for any
Yeah.
kind of.
He was
Yeah,
just, and that's the thing. He couldn't move the car on his own. He couldn't have did most of it on his own. He had to have help.
Yeah, dude,
Interesting.
I think he's like the embodiment. His entire character is show don't tell because he's so like throughout the entire movie,
Doesn't
he's
talk a lot.
unwilling to talk about stuff. Like he ignores like all the like whenever Blake brings up like his family or whatever, he like refuses
Mhm.
to talk about it and like
Does
deflects.
he say how he got his
and
medal?
then- He doesn't. Yeah, he doesn't. Like he just doesn't
Yeah, I
say
don't think
it.
he did.
He just like does not want to talk about anything. But when push comes to shove, he's like there to like risk his own life to save other people.
Yeah,
and he
just
doesn't want like
does
that.
good things.
Yeah. And
Yeah, like
you
with
don't
the
even
French lady.
realize like yeah, with the French lady, dude, cuz there's so much in that movie
He
that
could have
like
stayed.
yeah, she asked him to stay. Dude, that whole French lady scene was like so good. Like that might be
Yeah.
my favorite scene actually in the movie.
I wish I could remember the poem because I looked it up. The poem that he says to him, which is what makes him realize he has to go.
Yeah.
I forget it has something to do with that because I think it was a French poem and I looked it up. That's why he started saying
Doesn't he
it.
have a wife and a kid, right? So it like reminds
Yeah.
him of
Yeah,
Oh,
you-
does
you-
he? Yeah, it
that's-
was something
yeah, 'cause-
about like not getting caught up in the moment. You know what I mean? Like keep going or something. It was something similar to
Oh,
that. That's
really?
why he remembered to keep going or think
Which
of what's
makes
next or
sense with
something.
what he was doing.
To that
Yeah,
extent.
Going back to like when he was pushing the truck, I just wanted to like this isn't a criticism of the movie. It's more of just something funny. Like the time that it took them to actually get the truck out of the hole was less than the time that if he would have just walked from there. Like if he would have just full
They
out
drove
sprinted.
5 more minutes.
He would have
They
full out
drove like a
sprinted.
minute further.
He would have expended less energy than pushing that truck as hard as he was.
Yeah,
Anyways, go
but
on.
would it
That's what you're saying.
cool? Would
Dude,
it
I
would
love-
have been a good scene? Would that have been a good scene if he was just sprinting there? No,
He
no.
just starts
He had to
sprinting.
motivate
Dude,
the
yeah.
boys to help him out.
Yeah.
If he just turned into Usain Bolt, like no, he got to push
Like
the truck
the-
out of the mud.
Yeah,
Like
you
the
would
cop
have
from
got that
Cloudy with
like
the Chance of Meatballs.
He has to rally the crew. That was a
But,
good
but
scene.
it was
I
almost like
really
jolting when
liked it.
when he got off the truck so early. And I think that's
5
a fault
minutes
of
later,
the one.
not
That's a
even.
fault of the the one take thing. But I get that like it's supposed to add to the realism. Like you never like don't see the main character. But yeah, that's
Mhm.
just one specific example of like why
It definitely
like that.
hurts it in ways. Not saying it doesn't. You know, you give up some things. It's like when
Yeah.
you watch like a normal movie, like they're just cutting around between scenarios. Like you know, you give up. There's pros and cons to both.
But I don't think I've ever watched a movie like that's made to seem like it's shot in one take like this.
I haven't either.
Yeah,
I've seen more shows that do it because movies are it's like an hour instead of 30 minutes doing an hour and a half to 2 hours. 2 hours of long takes, or even just making it look like a long take, is insane.
There are like
that's a lot of work and a lot of effort.
There are individual long takes that I've seen, like within individual movies. The only other one I can think of, like this is just off the top of my head, is Birdman from 2014. That's a single take.
They had like 35 minutes, I think, uncut.
Yeah.
But Joe, you might be able to like just check my bullshit on this if this is wrong. But isn't like the average shot length of a movie like 0.6 seconds? Oh, it's something crazy because there's so much shot reverse.
I could believe the average.
I think the average is like 0.6, and the average for 1917 was like 25 minutes or something like that. Like it was like something ridiculous.
Any modern movie with Liam Neeson, yeah, I imagine.
Well, it felt like there was like a cut like every like I don't know 2 or 3 minutes in this movie. As far as like they would like cut to like a rock or like a pile of debris or whatever it was.
That's the thing. That's the thing. Sometimes when they cut to stuff, Chris, they might not have actually went past stuff. They might not have actually cut, but they might.
I think
have
they
been,
definitely.
That's definitely where they're hiding the cuts.
I think a lot of them they probably did, but some of them I'm sure they were just doing it so they could change things.
I know there is shots. I know there's one cut that happens. They don't even pass anything. They just stitch together 2 frames, and it's like he's like climbing out of a thing, and they just stitch it, and there's like he's like maybe 6 inches apart from where they had him stop and start, and they just morphed it together and added a frame, and it's like completely seamless. Like you don't even notice. It's like a
really good.
Shot.
That's crazy. That's insane.
A lot of the time, it is very seamless.
Yeah. But dude, I think like I don't know, dude. There's just so much like I could talk about with this movie. I'm trying to think what my favorite like thing we haven't talked about.
There's so many cool scenes with Schofield, like him crawling over the dead bodies and stuff.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, they're all fucking bloated. Yeah,
they was gross. That was the grossest. Well, no, him sticking the hand in it. Sorry, John. Go ahead.
I'll get it out of the way. Towards the end, the like ruins of that town at night, when just like it's only lit by like fire and
flares.
That was a cool scene.
That was pretty incredible, I think. And that,
dude, when he chokes out the guy with the drunk guy walking up right next to him.
And like there's the tension of the other shooter there too.
That's the thing too. He doesn't hesitate for like killing people. That's the thing that shows that he has more experience with actually fighting. Like he will kill people. And sorry, Sam, you can go right after that. I just want to say that goes back to when Blake died. He was immediately like, we probably shouldn't do this, but he did it because Blake wanted to. Yeah. And it ended up backfiring. But go ahead, Sam.
There's a couple. Okay, so one, this excuses the guy being a poor shot because he was drunk as shit to the point where he was throwing up. So when he's chasing him, fair enough, he's not going to hit him. But also, I wrote this down when when they first go over the trench, or when they first go out into no man's land, like they don't even know the Germans are gone. They haven't even taken a step out of their own trench. Schofield goes first, and he says age before beauty, even though he like did not want to go on this trip at all. Like he's angry at Blake for picking him, but he's still the first one like to put his head out. So yeah, I really like. He's just like such a selfless guy, even though like
I like the character.
He's very clearly
like speaks to his character a lot.
He doesn't want to do it, but he does it. That's something I like. He does it because he has to
a
lot. Yeah.
And that begs the question of the devotion that you have to your country, even in times of a war that you might not even agree with at all, or really even understand why you're fighting.
Well, isn't he one of the people that says against, like he says, like fighting something about, he doesn't really care about fighting for his country. He wants to be with them. Like he's fighting for the people. He seems more
interested. Yeah, he seems more interested in saving people because the Germans, like, he's never like the first person to shoot. He's always like, even when he sees the guy at the very beginning when they're both looking at each other, and then before he chokes the kid out, he like gives him a second to like, turn around, And then he like silences him and he takes his hand off his mouth. And again, he gives him like a second to not say anything.
Yeah,
And
he
it's
tells
only
him
when
to
he like has
shush.
to do it.
Yeah, that's
he
right. I
gives,
forgot about that.
he gives all of his food and milk to the kids, like to the woman and the child. Like just everything, like without any hesitation. Just
I remember
immediately.
seeing him take the milk and thinking like that's gonna come up later, and I was super happy when it did. I was like,
Yeah, well, I thought it was like a metaphor with like the cows or something. I was trying to pick up on like, what does this mean? Like, why is this random scene here? But then it paid off later, so it made sense.
Yeah.
Didn't they
Yeah.
kill like a bunch of the cows or something too?
The Germans shot them all.
Yeah, they shot them all.
Yeah.
Scorched earth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Scorch cow.
So I feel like there might be something there with that, but
Yeah, dude, when the comment that they have when they're riding away on the truck and they're like, he's like, "What, we've been fighting 3 years over this mile." He's like, "We should have just let him keep it." Like
yeah,
they just like don't care. Yeah.
that is the craziness of World War One style warfare. Is like because
Yeah.
of that trench style. It honestly was very unintelligent, because it was very caught in the middle between modern styles of warfare. Well, I shouldn't say modern anymore because we're past that even now. But like towards like World War II and like talking Vietnam War and stuff.
Yeah.
I feel like
They were
watching this
still-
movie made me like realize that I don't understand how war works. Like, what are like
Well,
the
that's the
actual
thing, Chris. Is
logistics
neither
of
did
what was
they
happening?
really.
They
Like-
didn't have the tactics to combat and overcome the technology they built. So the easiest solution was just to hide and like wait for someone to like push and then kill them all.
It was like
Well,
all
yeah.
battles of attrition.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I guess they thought it was going to be over who could take the most land or who could capture, the capital or whatever. But really, it was just whose supplies lasted longer.
Benedict
Well,
Cumberbatch says
Realistically, it
that.
was who was more willing to break like don't do that rules. Like who was willing to mustard gas people and shit.
Benedict
Like,
Cumberbatch says exactly that. He's like, "There's only one way this war ends. It's last man standing."
Yeah.
mhm.
He's like, today they say don't go over. Tomorrow they'll say send like everybody.
Well, that's something I wanted to say actually is I feel like that part was supposed to be more the philosophy that was back then and not really what should have happened, but what did happen because of how people thought about it. Like there was better answers, but they just like sent people, they would just
Like what?
throw bodies at them and see what would happen. There wasn't really, that was most of World War One was they would just send them at these trenches and they would just get gunned down.
Yeah.
Like there
I
was
mean,
so many
hindsight-
like that, and they would gain like an inch.
Hindsight's 2020.
That's all it
but
was.
Realistically, they should have
Well,
just
yeah,
stayed
obviously,
put
but it doesn't mean
and
they
waited them
weren't
out.
as advanced.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, that's part of the question, isn't it? Like, what could have been done better, realistically, for what they knew at the time.
Yeah.
Like they had tanks, but they didn't really work. They were super
They're
super
close.
messed up. Who had the best ones? Was it Germans?
The double
Kinda had
side
them.
guns. The British I think were the first with tanks. But like I don't know, like once like one got captured, they were like, "Oh, we'll just make this exact same thing." Like it's pretty
True.
easy to like
I just
copy.
remember them being super unstable and like
They got
would
caught in the mud a
fall
lot.
over easily.
Yeah, they
originally,
got caught in
didn't
the
they?
mud.
Yeah, I just remember
Yeah.
them being kind of a detriment, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they like would tip over a lot, right? That was the thing.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Right? If they like went over a hill for some reason, they were weighted funny and would just tip over, and they were too heavy to fix.
I feel like that's not like crazy. I feel like they could have I feel like they had the engineering intelligence to be able to make better stuff even back then.
It was the first time
Yeah.
they ever made it.
Well, that's why
Okay,
I said
but,
it was
like,
caught.
they
Yeah,
could've
it was caught in
practiced.
between like before they. They could have figured it out.
I mean, that
You
was
know,
the
like,
practice,
come on,
I
don't-
suppose.
Don't knock it over.
Yeah.
Just make it better.
Honestly, they're all just bad
Yeah.
drivers.
Yeah, just learn to drive.
One thing I did want to say, it was my top note. And I know that we said earlier, like there's no heroes or villains like in war. It's kind of just one side or the other. But that German pilot that they like save his life and then he immediately murders Blake.
Yeah.
Fuck that guy. He's clearly the villain.
He was not thinking like what did
Well-
he think was gonna happen there? Like, come on.
Yeah, he
like,
was
Well,
dying
you
no
have to
matter
think
what.
from his perspective. He just fucking crash landed, and realistically, you would assume that they were going to
He-
kill you.
they probably thought, oh, don't let
So-
him
He might as well
survive
take the
crash.
chance because doing
Yeah.
what he did, he died anyway. So
Yeah,
like he might as
his
well.
No,
only
I
hope
agree.
was
That's
to
what
not
I
do
would
that.
do. But imagine I'm sitting in front of a computer, okay, just chilling. Imagine if you just crashed a plane and then some dude not speaking your language is just like holding you down and
Yeah.
you're like, what the fuck? Like, I
what
might
I would-
stab him too. I'm
Hey,
not,
I
I'm
would
not
Rizzo,
think,
he
like-
deserved it.
I would think
Monday
like,
morning
holy shit.
quarterbacking.
he did
He would be
deserve
like,
it.
holy shit, I
deserved
survived
it,
this
yeah.
crash. And then these guys drag you out into this field like, oh my God, they're going to execute me.
No,
That's
they
what
did
I
that
would
because he
have
was on fire. They saved his life.
Yeah, but he.
But no, like it actually that did happen. Like they would save people and then they would just shoot them because what are you going to do with them after that? You know, like it really
Torture
was
them, I
survival of the
guess,
fittest.
which
Like,
is probably worse.
I feel
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
he also definitely felt like obligation to his country, like regardless of
probably
what happened.
dude.
Like he's
That
like,
is something
oh,
to
like
think about.
I have to, this is what the Kaiser would
Come
want.
back.
Yeah.
Come back.
It was a Kaiser
One-
back then. I forgot.
Yeah.
One part of the movie I really liked is the scene that Chris was complaining about, where they're walking and they walk through the trees, and there's like all
Yeah,
the,
it's so
like those
boring.
like flowers that look like, or like I don't even know if they're flowers or not, but they're all
Cherry
white.
blossoms.
When he
Mhm.
when he's floating down the river and like kind of just like exhausted, he sees like the cherry blossoms in the river, and that gives him like the motivation to start swimming again rather than just drifting along in
Yeah.
the woods.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
I
that's
love
actually something I wanted to say. That's another one of the metaphors throughout the movie, ain't it? Because when he talks about the flowers they used to grow, wouldn't they grow
Yeah.
through anything? That was like
Yeah, he
a metaphor.
said like it doesn't
obviously.
matter that you chop down these trees because you'll have twice as many next year. I think
Yeah,
that's what
it
he says,
comes,
something like that.
If you can
That's
persevere,
I think that's one of the things.
these hard times. Then
About this movie is that like through all of this awful shit is that it did eventually end, and like things did get better eventually, like in
What year
senses,
did
like not in
World War
every
One
way, obviously, but
Till
things
World War
things
II.
changed.
yeah,
What year did it end? What year did World War One end?
1918.
World War
1917.
One.
Okay,
So I wanted to say 18, but I was not sure.
Yeah.
like
Can we confirm that
No, it.
Yeah, let me look that
before
up.
we're wrong
No,
about
it's-
this? And we
I'm,
get a lot
I'm
of comments.
100% confident.
I got November 11th, 1918.
Oh yeah,
Okay,
that's fucking
good.
yeah. Why the hell did I not?
My
Oh,
mom's
I didn't
birthday.
remember. I honestly
Because
forgot.
this movie
I-
takes
I'm
place in
bad at dates.
1917 and
Better
it
than that,
ends, and like that. This is
What?
the end of the war. It ends as soon as
Oh
this movie's
yeah, that
over.
makes sense.
No, I think that really that like the scene you were talking about. I think it is always really just nice to see when something is being able to get conveyed entirely without dialogue, and it's just complete visual
I agree.
storytelling, especially with a movie that like looks and is visually orchestrated as well as this one. And with the amount of moments where that happens, where again there are long stretches of time without any dialogue, I think they're done very well.
I think it's a
Yeah, I
lot
was
of looking at
never-
rocks and looking at like.
I
You
was-
do look.
I
You
was
do
never
have to
one
look at.
word watching
You do have to look
And
at
if
piles
you're
of dirt.
if you want
But
to
it's a
really know what
beautiful
World War
movie.
One looked like and all the atrocities that happened during the war, then that's perfect. But like I
But
just
the
felt like I
shots
was
were
a
still
little bored.
beautiful.
100% they were.
You
But I was
got
bored.
so caught up in the World War One thing.
100% they were beautiful,
But-
but I was bored.
Chris, you got to stop managing.
I
our
like
TikTok.
looking
You're
at
off this week.
pretty,
My
beautiful
attention span
shots.
cannot handle.
You're off this.
All the
30
clips are
seconds
just
straight
saying
of
this
no
movie
dialogue.
sucks.
Chris gotta do a month-long break from TikTok before he's allowed to watch another movie.
The title is going to be 1917. Bad war, bad movie.
I do want to say I like the
Sleeping
movie. I don't
Simulator.
love it as much as everybody else, but
I get
Yeah.
that.
That's
I mean,
fair.
that's fair. War movies also aren't for everybody. Realism movies aren't for everybody. I actually wanted to say there is also people a bit of a art like have different opinions on. I like show don't tell, and I do think because it's a movie and it's a visual art form, you should definitely try to include that when you can. But sometimes it is like that's a thing. You give up stuff sometimes just trying to only show. Sometimes it's okay to just tell. Like you don't have to always do all this.
a
To
lot of
try
this
to
movie
show
was,
Sure,
Like, you
yeah,
can
it
just
was
say
like
it.
either show or tell, but there wasn't a lot of like discussing what was actually being shown. I don't know.
With showing, you do have to leave up a lot of inference to the audience. Like there's a
Yeah,
lot, and like you
which can be
definitely-
good.
Yeah,
Can be really
yeah,
good.
for sure. I definitely appreciate it. And I enjoy being able to pick apart like pieces of visual storytelling or like different visual motifs that appear
You
throughout
can watch
a
it
work.
multiple times, see
Yeah.
different stuff.
For sure, yeah. That was like that was my relationship with the, I guess, like sort of similar, the movie Dunkirk, which is a World War II movie, of course.
I
But
haven't watched that actually.
I haven't seen that.
well,
yeah.
I didn't really like it the first time I saw it, and the thing about that movie is it also has like a similar kind of real time, not real time because there are cuts, and there's like parallel action happening throughout it, where it's like the same event from different perspectives and different characters, but it's a entire event. It's not over the course of a war. It's just localized on this beach. Entirely the
Mhm.
events that happen on this beach, and there isn't much dialogue. There are instances of characters talking, but the majority of it is the action, and the story is being conveyed through the action. And I'll get a gripe out of the way. For some reason, even though like there are very minimal times where there are characters talking, most of the time it's like mixed so horribly you can barely tell what people are saying. So
In Dunkirk or this movie?
in Dunkirk, yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
I feel like I'd be
Yeah,
more
I thought
drawn
it
to
was
This
the
movie
only
does
one.
the opposite. I
Like-
think it does a good job of it. I
Christopher
think.
Nolan
I
does
think
that
you
a
could
lot.
usually tell
That
what
does
they're
happen a
talking
lot.
about.
Yeah.
Christopher Nolan like refuses to use CGI, so he does a lot of really cool.
And he also
If,
refuses to use good microphones.
For another day.
Yeah. If anybody watches Tenet, you will not know what anybody's saying without subtitles. The entire movie.
It's both a separate structure within the others. Damage to one structure won't compromise the other.
I just say,
Love
this
it.
movie, 1917, kind of feels like a video game, to where it's like, oh, what is the next mission as we progress linearly through this story? Like, oh, the next mission. Oh, a plane crashes on top of us. Oh, now I have to push the car out of this hole. Like, it just felt like very linear. Like, it's a very
No,
linear.
Chris is
storytelling.
It's like a video game because there are events
No,
in
I
order.
I understand what he's
Events in
saying.
an order where you
Things
slowly
happen
walk
one after
forward
another.
and
No, no,
progress.
This is ridiculous.
I do actually
Where's
get what
the
he's
time
saying.
travel?
He's being
I-
kind of
I do
condescending.
too, but
like it's
He-
like
I am
he's
a little
always
bit.
fucking he didn't even watch it. I don't know why he just read a fucking essay online and he's just talking about it. He's just
Does
quoting
it not,
it word
does it
for
not
word.
feel like walking through like a Call of Duty campaign to
No,
where you do
I get
one
it, but I
mission,
think it is
the
kind of
next
meant to be
mission.
like that.
Yes, thank you.
I think it is kind of meant to be like that.
maybe
though.
more
100%
like
it is.
like an open world game. Like you stumble upon something out in the world.
But
and-
it's
and
very
event
linear.
happens.
It's literally like a Call of Duty campaign, and I'm convinced.
Dude, the
Call of Duty campaign, though.
the cool. You're wrong about the German being the worst character because the worst character is the rat who sets off the trip mine.
Mm.
That dude's a piece of shit.
Bro, he eats a
Yeah.
fucking mine to the face. I wanted to say that. He kind of just takes it like a champ for real. He's like, I'm blind, my eyes.
Yeah,
But he had a mine blow up in his face and he just walked it off. I thought he was gonna lose a
I
leg.
thought he was
I thought
dead.
he was
I
gonna
thought he was dead. Yeah, I thought he was dead.
I thought he was gonna die and it was gonna be up to Blake. And then
Yep.
Blake got shanked. This dude just stabbed
Yeah.
the fuck out of him. And then I was like, oh man, that's gonna suck for the rest of the movie. And then he died. He just died.
Yeah, I
couldn't believe it.
thought I thought like, oh, the story is going to be like, trying to get Blake. Is that his name? What's his
Yeah.
name?
Yeah, Blake.
Okay,
I
Blake.
think.
I don't know
I
his
mean,
first
if
trying to
name.
get
we're
him-
wrong,
His
cares?
last name.
Try to get him
Someone
to
will
safety.
correct us.
And then he just dies. It's like, oh, okay.
I thought
I
it
didn't
was gonna
expect
be like
it, but
an
I
escort
enjoyed that. I
mission
didn't expect it.
Yeah, I enjoyed that.
in the video game. Like it was gonna be like
His-
in COD 4 when you carry Captain McMillan or whatever his name is. You carry him up to set him down and
Is
fight.
that right, McMillan? Because it's a funny
Captain
name.
Watermelon.
Yeah.
It's something. It's mixed something.
I wanted to say
pick him up
that,
and set him down, and shoot.
Is it McTavish or something?
That's
No,
Soap's
that's,
Yeah, I think it's
that-
McTavish.
That's
No, that's a
No,
different
that's
character, isn't
No,
it?
Soap's
It's
last
McLovin
name
or
is
something.
not McLovin. Soap's last name is McTavish. The guy that
Okay.
you do all gillied up with is Macmillan.
Yeah.
Oh, Ghost.
No, Ghost isn't
But,
in Call of Duty 4. Or is he?
No idea.
Where is he?
I've never played a single Infinity Ward campaign in my life.
Well, now-
You
never
you
even
gotta
played
play
Model
The only
Blue?
campaign I've ever played
This is
Black Ops.
a mask
Yeah,
off mode
it is
for you,
pretty
Chris,
linear.
because this doesn't seem like your comparison
You're the Call of Duty guy.
to the Call of Duty campaign in this movie. It doesn't
Cut this
seem
out. Cut it
applicable.
out.
You know what I mean? Like, it's like, oh, we gotta walk forward and fight all the bad guys, and I will be introduced
Maybe-
to a mission at a time.
Like,
Maybe that's why he
California
doesn't play him.
two are good.
I wanted to talk about the brother, Blake's brother, that they were trying to save throughout the movie, Richard Madden's performance, because he's one of the characters only in it for 5 minutes, which was a shock to me. I didn't know he was going to be in it, but he really makes you feel bad for him in the couple scenes he's in, because like he seems like a pretty responsible guy, and like he worked, like, you know, like he's a good guy. And the way Richard Madden performs, like him, like finding out his brother died at war, I think he killed it better. Like maybe the best performance in that short of a time. Like for that amount of time, that's pretty crazy to get that across.
Him and Schofield seemed very similar in character, where they were like able to kind of process this like heavy emotion, but then realize that everybody else is in the same boat here, and we need to focus on like saving everybody too. Because immediately he's like, he says and he goes, "Thank you. Go to the mess hall. You need some food." Like immediately, like he's like holding back tears when he says it, but he's like, you know, I realize what you've done. I realize
and
what
he goes right back to work.
Yeah, it's probably like a line that he's probably said as a person like 100 times. Go to the mess hall, get some food, and he just like shook off that his brother died. Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah,
that was a really good scene.
Well, I wouldn't even say shook off, because you see a couple,
he's got tears in his eyes.
Couple conversation pieces where tears start to come out. He's literally shaking. Which, how do you perform that as an actor? Like, I mean, like I get it. Yeah. You just really feel that, but that's hard to do. Like, how do you get yourself in that mindset?
I remember his hand. Like he had
shaking,
his like necklace and his rings in his hand, and he like could not move it because he couldn't believe he had that.
He's looking
especially
at them. And Schofield asks him a question or says something, and he doesn't hear him, and it like takes a second. You can tell he's not paying attention, like he's just looking at that. But when he first approaches him, he's like, "I'm from the 8th," and he goes, "The 8th? Like Tom must be here. Like where is he?" And then
he was ready to see his brother.
Oh yeah,
he's just like, "Oh, it was quick." And I was like, "Oh man!" You see like the joy in his eyes when he's like, "Holy shit, I'm going to see my brother."
Yeah. I like the part when he asked to write his mother. That I felt was very emotional too. He remembered what he asked him in his last moments and stuff. Like once again, going back to how good of a guy Schofield is. Like something I wanted to say. It doesn't till the end of the movie. You don't see Schofield, that picture he holds throughout the movie.
Yeah.
And in the end, you see it's his wife, right? I assumed it was his wife.
It's his wife. It says on the back. It says "Come home." And like, because I would say like he develops his character through what he refuses to say. Because he gets asked about his family and he refuses to elaborate. He like isn't able to speak to the French girl to say like, "Oh, like I have kids of my own. I know what I'm doing." Like, and when he's talking about the Purple Heart, and he says, "I wish I just wouldn't have even gone home." And then like he goes to say something else, and he just cuts himself off and keeps going. And then, like, finally, you see the picture of his wife.
It goes to the guilt that you feel surviving those awful things. Like, no matter what you did, even if you like tried to save everyone you could, you would still feel guilt as the survivor. And that's what I felt like the vibes you were getting is that he was like a survivor of some really bad thing that happened. So he feels bad for all those people he couldn't save.
Well, I don't know if that's probably directly a lot of what he was feeling. I think mostly what he was feeling was, I have to go home, or I am home, but I'm gonna have to go back eventually, and so my family might not ever see me again. And that's what he was feeling the most.
Because he even said he didn't want to go home, because I felt like at that point
because he knew he had to leave
face his own wife.
No, I thought it was
once
because
he saved the brother, he felt like he could finally. You know, like he helped someone, you know, like that's the only time throughout the movie someone he tried to help really survived and came out alive. Like that was why it was so important to him to keep that wish and feel like he could go home.
Nate, I don't know if you remember, but when he did kind of drone off in that earlier thing, when he was talking about his family, he did kind of say what Chris was saying. He started to say like, I wish I didn't go home because I had to leave again. Like he doesn't want to go back on leave because he's just gonna have to leave his family again. And then he cut off because his voice broke.
Yeah, so, he's like, when I knew I had to come back, and they might never.
Shit! Don't listen to me then. I missed that whole part.
Well, now you know.
Yeah, so
I
Chris,
missed that whole part.
Chris
Don't
is
listen to me.
on
I
that.
missed a little bit of dialogue. He didn't
Yeah.
watch it though.
True. Yeah.
Chris read the.
He just made that up.
They
The
mentioned
script.
that in the novel.
Yeah, I didn't remember that part. So sorry, John. That was the part when they were walking.
Yeah,
You
it
said
was
that happened?
right as they are about to go into the tree. So it's like in between them leaving the like artillery field.
It was the
Um,
end of the boring scene. Like at the
he's-
very
he's
end, it got
talking-
interesting. Before
It's
that,
right when he
everything was
says he's like you never said what happened to your medal, and he's like I swapped it. He's like it's just a
You
bit of
should've brought
tin.
your
Yeah,
family,
And then he said he didn't
Yeah.
want to go home. And then I just don't remember that part after. I
Yeah.
must have like looked away or something. Like maybe I got a text or something. Like damn. See, the
Yeah.
thing is, I looked away for 1 second probably and missed such an important
That's-
piece of
yeah.
dialogue.
That's on you.
That is the thing about these kind of movies is if you don't look away at the right part, you might miss something that is the most important part of the movie.
Yeah.
And it was just that small piece that I don't even remember hearing.
Please silence your
One thing I
phone.
thought. one
My
thing I thought
fault.
was
It
kinda
is my
funny is the amount of like room like breaching and clearing that had to do with bolt action rifles. I was like, dude, that was fucking blow, man. Like they're like
I mean, clearing
peeking
any
around
room would
corners
suck.
and like yeah, but like
Yeah.
having
Could you
to
imagine
shoot
having
and
to
then
do
like
that?
reload. It's like, well,
Look,
if
I
there's
played
two
R6.
people in here, I die.
Yeah.
I played R6.
How accurate
It sucks to be the
World
first
War
guy
One
to-
rifles.
Yeah. Nate's
I
got
had
real world.
Very,
experience.
very accurate.
Cool
Actually,
sound
Chris,
effects. Very
We,
good
uh,
sound
Wait,
effects.
Tim, what'd you say?
Yes.
They were very accurate. The
Really?
rifles,
So-
the German rifles, the Gewehr or whatever it was called, the sights.
Cool name.
At the very beginning of the war, when they made them, they made the sights so that the very first notch was 200 yards or 200 meters because the rifles were marked from 200 to 2,000
Yeah.
meters because they thought that World War One, like with these advanced rifles and cartridges, that there would be no way that someone would get within 200 meters. So the
Yeah.
Germans, when they
Hmm.
aimed their rifles, weren't even looking through the sight. They had to aim the gun like down. Like there was nothing you could. You just had to get
Really?
like a feel for it.
Because
Yeah.
I was viewing a lot of like the
I
scenes
didn't
in
know
the
that.
town where he was like running from the German soldier as like, oh, it was just World War One. Like the accuracy of the guns weren't really like good for like this
No, they weren't
specific type of
muskets.
combat. But
Yeah, they were. That was the first time that they had.
So they
like,
actually just
cartridges
sucked at
in
aiming.
cases.
they actually just sucked.
Yeah. Well, the one
Yeah,
guy was
they were-
drunk. The one guy was drunk.
He was
And the
drunk.
other guy was like,
Sam won't let that go. He was drunk, you guys. It
one
was
guy was
realistic.
drunk.
He
Give
was
him a
drunk.
break. He was drunk. Like give him a break.
the other guy.
You come on, we've all had a couple shots and then tried to shoot somebody and missed. It happens. It
Yeah.
happens. Sorry,
Yeah,
go
the other
ahead,
guy
Sam, I
actually sucked.
interrupted.
The other guy just like completely. It was like clutch or kick. It was like clutch or kick, and he had a head glitch in like the Nuketown house and just got quick
Yeah.
scoped. Like I don't know what to tell him.
Folded.
Quick
He
quick
panicked.
5 votes to kick. He's gone.
His hands
Yeah,
were
buddy.
shaking, bro. All he had to
Yeah.
do was shoot.
I had a question for you
And he
guys.
had
'cause I-
fucking final stand on. Sorry. Yeah, cool.
But I had a question for you guys when I was watching. When he was fighting that guy in the tower, and he goes upstairs and he clearly gets shot, and then he like blacks out. They kind of
Lame.
never was he shot
He
in the
gets hit in the
head?
helmet.
In the helmet.
And he
'Cause he
got
has a
knocked.
helmet on?
Yeah, he
Yeah,
got
I
hit
think
in
I-
his helmet.
In the back of the neck, I thought he had like a cut, and that's what the girl had.
That's
Yeah,
from
I
hitting
thought
his
that was
head.
from falling down the stairs. I didn't know.
Yeah,
he
Yeah, no,
got
he hit his
shot.
head, guys, and it knocked him out.
Yeah.
Well,
okay.
so to be fair, it kind of doesn't make 100% sense that the bullet didn't do really much. But clearly, this guy is the Terminator because he ate a claymore and then he ate a bullet to the skull with no
Okay,
real
the
damage.
only reason he
He's
had
buried
the-
alive.
was so
Stuck
that
his hand in a
he
dead
had
body.
a time. He like he had a time frame of
He
when he
died
had to
right
get
after.
to the
Let's
end.
be honest.
He had a time frame, like the main character had a time frame of when he had to get to the end. So the only point of him getting knocked out was to make it like time sensitive,
cut.
and
Hey,
make it so.
But
like,
it made
oh,
it
we
better,
gotta-
motherfucker. It made it more intense. I don't give a fuck.
100%. But it's also like
It's like I
Really?
hate these like long
really,
rocks.
Really?
And it was like a really situation where it's like, oh, that's.
Right.
But I remember being like, how
Yeah.
are they gonna like make the time line up? And then they did that, and I was like, oh. But like you said, like instead of just having him walk through dark woods for way longer than he needed to, they did that. Personally, I actually might have liked him to do like a cool shot with him walking through like dark wilderness or something. But
Yeah.
also, I don't know. I might have hated it. So
when
who
I
fucking-
first
who am I?
when I first watched the movie, like right after he gets out of the river and he finds that troop of guys and he like lays his head
Singing?
against the tree. I thought he died there. I thought he was dead,
Oh,
and that's
really?
how the movie was going to end. Like I legitimately thought, because if you watch
That
it,
would've
dude,
been
he
crazy.
doesn't blink for like literally like 40 seconds when they're like have the camera on him. And I thought that was going to be like he got so close to saving everybody but died.
Okay,
Because they killed Tom, and I didn't expect them to do that.
Guess the movie. What movie does this parallel? Dude gets to the end. He has a linear journey all the way through
Dude.
all of his
Linear.
adventures.
It's a movie.
Wait,
What are you
hold
talking
on.
about?
Let him speak his piece.
Yeah, let him finish.
I hate the hero's
He-
journey.
In the end, he's trying to get to like a specific place, and in the end, he gets there, and he doesn't even realize he's there. Like he's sitting there listening to the song. He doesn't even realize he's there yet. But then suddenly,
That song
someone
was
tells
hard,
him that
though.
he's actually there. What movie does it parallel?
I don't know.
Tell,
You have to
tell me
break
it doesn't
that down to me. I don't know
parallel
what
the
fuck that
SpongeBob
was.
SquarePants movie to where like, oh, we're in Shell City. Oh my God, there's a sign. Like, come on.
Is that a negative?
The ninth
Are you talking
battalion,
shit? Are
or
you
whatever it
talking
was
shit
called.
on the
the
SpongeBob
ninth
movie?
battalion? The 9th battalion is Shell City. I won't be told
Shell
otherwise.
City.
They're
It's
all
Shell
Man,
City.
where was he supposed to
But
go?
see,
What
like-
was the
Good
city
point.
called? Lafleur? Lafleur or something? That's Shell City.
Shell City. They made it to
Yeah,
Shell City and they
Shell
didn't even
City.
realize it.
he made it to Shell City.
It's exactly,
I forgot to
exactly
joke
what that scene
at the end.
replicated. in-
But you know when the screen goes black at the end and it goes to the credits? Yeah, that was just him dying. Like he just died at the end. Like all the shit he didn't make it
Yeah,
home. He
it's
was
SpongeBob
fucked. He
and
got
Patrick.
fucked up.
They made it
Yeah,
back to
Realistically, he
Bikini
probably
Bottom.
does die.
He's
Uh,
He
well,
probably,
he's,
yeah, dude. He's got to cut his hand off.
he's
you
for
know,
sure
like, that
concussed
shit's
and
done.
infected. Yeah.
He hasn't eaten.
Andy probably has shrapnel all in him from the claymore that we.
Yeah.
That,
He's gonna,
Oh, yeah.
what's
he's
the
gonna
claymore? I thought it was, but
get, so he's got
like an
Lead
old
poisoning.
tripwire and like dynamite.
bronchitis.
Yeah.
Yeah, lead poisoning, bronchitis, like fractured ribs,
Probably
like his
dysentery.
eyes, a concussion, dysentery, an infected arm. Like he's dead, dude.
He's dead.
Yeah.
I mean, like if this was a look, we're talking about realism. If we want to see World War I realism, he would have died of dysentery halfway through. So
Before the movie
An
started.
artillery shell would have hit like 100 feet behind him.
It would have been all
Number.
quiet on the Western Front, where he just gets like shot in the trench.
So
Yeah.
something I wanted to talk about actually is you guys were talking about how they make it feel super realistic. I feel like they definitely toned back how gross it was. Like World War I was pretty gross. Like they were in
Dude,
muddy
Did you?
pits
There's this
all the time.
at the very beginning. There's that like decaying horse. It's like half skeleton, half
Oh,
meat on the
yeah.
bones. There's
No,
the
I'm
guy
not saying
wrapped
the
up in
movie
barbed
wasn't
wire.
gross. I'm not saying the movie wasn't gross. I'm saying it was probably more gross than the movie was.
Right.
Like there's
Okay, I
like
get it.
specifically when
Oh,
they're
sure,
in
yeah.
like when they're in the no man's land, there was part because actually something I forgot to say. I think they do a lot of cool stuff with Keller in this movie, like with the white flower to represent. It clearly represents like hope, in my opinion. That's what I took it as from the moment he brought it up to the moment it showed up when he was in the water. It's like what keeps you going, you know. So they do some cool stuff with Keller, but to make it look more beautiful, they step back from like how gross World War like it would have been all really gross black looking mud.
Well,
And
yeah.
I'm
It-
kind of glad they didn't go for that.
It's
I'm
interesting.
glad it
you
looked
bring up
better, in my opinion.
It's interesting you bring up hope, Nate, because Benedict Cumberbatch has that line where he says hope is a dangerous thing, and hope is kind
I
of
forgot about that.
all that helped Schofield get along, like throughout his journey, even though he could have turned back. So hope was
Yep.
kind of what put Schofield in
a
danger
really good line.
too.
Well, that's what with the car scene is like everyone else is like, why are you trying so hard? Like, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like, whatever happens, like we're still all like the idea in their heads was like either we take it serious and we die, or we just like try to bite it out till we get home. And he's focused on just what's happening right in front of him. It's like he has this opportunity to help someone, so he tries to.
Did you guys
You
know,
what I
in
mean?
the
And
final
I
scene
really
with,
like that.
in the final scene, like while he's running and all the soldiers are charging,
That
I looked
wasn't
it up
intended.
yeah, I looked it up in like preparation for this podcast. Yeah, it wasn't intended. He accidentally stumbled, and they just kept shooting because it just like played out so
Oh,
perfectly.
when the guy like
Well,
ran
that's
into
the thing
him?
about long
yeah,
yeah, when the
takes
guy ran into
is
him and he
they
fell
can't-
down. It
They
wasn't
don't have
just
time
accident.
to
It was
reshoot all that.
accident.
Cool.
It's not going to be perfect.
Well,
Like,
I'm
no
sure they
long
take
take is
multiple
perfect.
takes.
Sure, we're
Yeah,
supposed to
but
just
well,
assume
they
he
probably
got
did
shot.
a couple, but they probably got never had one where he never fell over. You know what I mean? Like, there's
Yeah.
gonna be mistakes in like a long one take. That's something I wanted to say earlier about how difficult it is. Like, you just have to get it as close to perfect as possible. You're
I
not
mean,
gonna
from
be
a
perfect
from
at
from
that.
a technical standpoint, this movie is like actually like crazy good. Like,
Yeah.
and I want to acknowledge that.
Ahead
like,
of its
but, like,
time, honestly, for sure.
I mean,
Yeah,
what year did
that's
it come
something I
out?
wanted to say earlier and forgot about.
What year did 1917 come out?
2019.
2019.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not
Not
that long ago.
I can't believe I got that
2017.
right because I didn't even watch it.
But it's
I didn't
super
even
technically
watch it
like
when it came out.
amazing, and it's a giant
still is.
flex for the director.
Absolutely.
100%.
I wanted to ask you guys, like, do you enjoy like Keller in movies, like when they use it in that way, like what I
of
was talking
course.
about? Like, because I love that.
I
I'm
love
a
it as well.
big fan of that. Some people just are like, it's pretentious, you know, like.
See,
I don't know what you mean.
I don't
wanted-
hate it.
I wanted to jump on.
So it's
something-
like kind of Keller theory in movies. Sorry, John, just to
Yeah.
explain it. It's like, so when they choose like specific colors to show a lot in a movie, like, so for this movie, they
Yeah.
use a lot of browns and
Oh,
greens,
that's good.
which sounds like it would be ugly, but somehow this movie, like browns, grays, and blacks and greens, but they make it still look beautiful, which is something I really enjoyed. Like, it wasn't colors I was used to seeing. And then that's why white felt so different.
That's kind of like a metaphor for the movie, I think, because they're taking such like a grim and like terrible topic of World
grim-
War One and
yep.
making something beautiful out of it.
That's
That's why I liked it so much. I
That's
like
what I was
stuff
going to
like
say,
that. Sorry,
Sam.
John, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. John.
Get fucked, John.
It's like
Get fucked.
it's this juxtaposition of like the French country. It's like the French countryside, which in
I always
real-
forget it was in France.
is like beautiful. These beautiful hills and forests and bodies of water and like little like country homes and towns here and there, but juxtaposed with the the graphic horror of warfare. These once beautiful places still kind of shine through. Their beauty is still kind of there, even in the midst of this like destruction that they're enduring.
Yeah.
And you can
So something-
you could still see the trenches today. If you look it up, you could still see where they were.
It is crazy to
shit.
think how much they did just for that. Like, they would when they go to the German camp or the German trenches and they have full dugout barracks pretty much.
Yeah.
That's crazy. But
Were
something I
those
wanted
the
to say that I
German
forgot about.
trenches? Like at the
Yeah,
When
end,
they were
crossed, yeah.
Oh, I thought
when
it was
they-
just
where they-
like
where
super
the trip mine
advanced
blew up.
ally or not ally, but
No.
like
'Cause he-
English trenches or whatever.
No, that's
he
the
says,
German one.
Okay,
That's why.
cool.
He's like the Huns have even have bigger rats.
You're right. They
That
called them
Oh yeah,
Huns. That was
you're
the
right.
other
Yeah,
one.
yeah, you are right. Yeah.
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 But I just wanted to say that I think the lady is the only French character you see in the movie, right?
Yeah.
And
Dude,
it's even
I
though
like-
it is in France. Which
Why
is
is she there?
interesting.
By the way, like, why is she just like?
Well, it's a French city. It's a French city
Why
that was
did she leave?
destroyed, and she was hiding out.
She
'Cause they would kill
found
her.
that baby. That's not her
Like,
kid.
earlier.
It wasn't
I don't know if
hers.
you guys picked up of that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's
Yeah.
another
Like,
to the hope.
she couldn't
thing,
have left
Well,
earlier.
You know.
Because they fell back, so that would have been behind like German lines anyway. So where would she go?
Yeah.
If she went the other way, she would go further into Germany. If she went
Yeah.
the other way, she would have just bumped into the line and and died. So she's gonna
Imagine
stay
her
there.
trying to run
Yeah.
through no man's land.
Where are
Like, she's not
where are all
making
the
it
other
if she
people?
has to
Where
stay
are
there.
where are the babies?
That's something they talk about in
It's just
war.
something I want to know.
Dead.
Yeah.
Probably
Dead.
dead.
Yeah,
You
probably
actually think
dead,
that-
dude.
It's heavily implied that they're dead.
That,
Did you not?
that
catch
town is
that
like in
part?
complete ruin. Yeah.
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 Yes, but like my
No, they were high.
logical conclusion is like, why wouldn't the French lady at the end leave with the baby with the parents? Like, what happened there?
Well, I mean,
But
they're dead.
it's not.
yeah,
always-
but like, I don't think the Germans came into the parents' home and killed them.
No, they
don't know,
they
this is a
probably got
pointless
killed by
argument.
artillery. Yeah, you're
No,
right. Okay.
Chris-
It's a pointless and uninteresting argument. I give up. but all I'm saying is the
Wait, is
parents.
this over 10 seconds? Oh yeah, let's
If the
move on.
parents were out of the
cut it out.
house, if the parents were out of the house, they could have took the baby and just like tried to make a move, like tried to run.
They
somewhere,
probably
I don't
got
know.
killed by artillery. That's
probably
what-
Why is
wanted-
Chris arguing for what they could have done?
They probably
oh,
cared
they-
more
they
about
could've
the
just-
safety of
They
the
didn't
child.
take the
If
baby,
they
dude. I'm sorry. I didn't write the
If they would
script.
have stayed in the house,
I
with the
didn't write it,
baby-
Chris.
You guys
Chris,
should have
look,
been wearing
fuck
helmets.
the baby. All right.
Yeah, they
What
would
do
have
you want them to
survived
do?
if they had
Sit there and
helmets on.
get killed, or just
They
leave
coulda
their
lived.
baby?
They could have maneuvered the German soldiers.
They left on a
all I'm saying.
motorcycle and
They could have
crashed.
finessed
How
them.
They weren't wearing
bad were the
helmets.
parents in 1917? That's the real question that
Yeah.
I want answered.
Yes, exactly.
Does
If the baby
daycare
lived
not
and they
exist?
didn't. Yeah.
One thing we didn't even talk about is how
Fat
young,
jam.
how young the soldiers were. Like Schofield is meant to
Weren't
be
they
like
18?
the older dude. The people like they chose like for the movie, like Schofield's supposed to be like the older, jaded one. He looks like 19, and it's like everybody else in the movie, especially when they go like and they're in the woods and they're singing that song.
Blake looks
Those
young.
people look like 14 and 15, man. Like it looks like. We just didn't
So
even mention
funny
that.
you said that. So the one I want to go back to the truck scene. There was the one that looked super young that did most of the talking, and then there
Dickhead.
was an Indian one, which I thought it was cool. They included an Indian character
Same.
because of the
Imperialism.
the imperialism. I was trying to think of
Yeah.
the right word. That's the best one. So they were probably included in the war a lot. I don't know about the British military at the time. Why would I care? It's
Yeah.
British. That was
I
one thing I
assume-
wasn't
yeah.
prepped for in the movie, Sam, is like should have worn I don't know why I didn't think I would be hearing British accents throughout the whole movie, but I wasn't prepped. I should have been prepped.
Dude, that one kid who
I was
like
glad they
always
didn't
has
talk,
some shit
honestly.
to say. Yeah, dude, that one kid who's like smoking a cigarette and he goes, "Hey, driver, try not to like keep it on the road this time." I would have beat the shit out of that kid. He always had some
Pipe down,
negative shit.
pipsqueak.
He
Yeah.
was the,
Well,
he
that's
was
the thing,
biggest hater
that's
of
the
the
thing.
That dude was
entire world.
accurate.
Remember, they're in the
driver
military.
his ass on the road.
That dude was
That's his
the
fault.
Chris of the
Well,
movie.
they were on the road. There was a
Yeah,
fucking
but it's the
pothole.
driver's
I'm
fault.
sorry they couldn't get out the
That kid
pavement.
Did
It
the
is the
trucks in
driver's
front of
fault.
him hit the pothole? It's the driver's fault.
I do
I'm
agree.
sorry to
Chris,
say.
there was a
But
tree
dude, cars were
in the
just
road.
invented like last year, bro. What do you want them to do? Like they just started
Okay,
driving.
fair enough. He's never drove before.
He was he got the third driver's license. Like, what do you want him to do?
the third
Dude,
UK driver's license.
Fucking
He
like,
was number
Schofield-
3.
Schofield's best friend just fucking dies, and he's like, "Where are you going?" He's like, "Oh, I'm going to the Second Devons." He goes, "You're not gonna make it."
Why did somebody
Like,
go
what
with
the
him?
fuck, man?
Why did
No,
somebody
I
go
love
with him?
that
Like
so
hold his
many
hand
of
along
them-
the way.
Well,
They didn't want to die.
I think that was the point.
Fair
is that
enough,
most
yeah.
people, wouldn't do it. They wouldn't do it. Even that's something about him getting picked. Like he could have just like not did it, but he did it anyway because
Yeah.
he was with him. You know, he was the only person that could have helped him, and that no one else would have. Who else would have did that?
Tom tells him to turn back after he
You
gets
die
hit
or
with
be
the
a traitor.
grenade.
Be a traitor.
He goes,
That's right.
"You can turn back. There's no Germans there. Like, just go back to the line."
I actually like that part a lot because remember he goes enough. Like he's like I'm not going to do that. So stop
Yeah.
saying it. Like I like that part a lot because there is a lot of
Yeah.
good character moments for Schofield. I actually think there's a lot of good character moments for Blake too. Like they talk about at
Love
the
Blake.
end, which helps the older brother. They're talking about how he likes to tell stories, and during that walking part, all he did was
Yeah.
tell stories. He just
Yeah,
kept
he's-
telling
he's-
stories, and that's something.
Yeah.
You were talking. Sorry, Sam. Let me get this out. You were talking
No,
about
go
the
ahead. I was just
comparison
agreeing with you.
between him and the older brother. Is throughout those stories he kept talking about how good of a person his older brother was, wasn't he? Like he would talk about how much he looked up to him, and
Yeah.
that was kind of like him and Schofield being once again to set them up as similar people.
Dude, that I think like the saddest part of the movie is when Blake is dying and like when he realizes there's nothing he can do but die, and he makes Schofield repeat like, "Where are you going? Who are you gonna find? Like, what do you?" He's like, "You need to tell me that you know what to do."
And then after Schofield finally gives him what he wants, then he dies. Yeah,
Yeah,
that was cool. That was the one like narrative, like super like interesting part of the movie. It was that whole thing.
That's the
But
thread
yeah.
that saved it for you, Chris.
Yes, that was the thread
that
that,
was-
saved the movie for me.
Oh, that
Kept it
made
from
it.
being a 2.
This movie was almost a 3. I think Blake's character we haven't talked about a lot. He's
Yeah.
been in passing because he died so early on. I feel like we haven't really talked about him. But like I said, I thought he was the main character at first. In the beginning, when he gets the mission and he's far more eager to go, and then when it really starts to happen, like he does choose to keep going, but it's obvious that he is not as adept for this situation as Schofield is. But it also does do a good job of showing that he is brave. I'm not saying he's not brave, but he is naive. They do a good job of
Yeah.
showing that because whenever they're after Schofield gets blinded from from getting blown up, I don't know how that's all he got, but he leads him out, and he didn't have to do that. Fuck you, Chris. So I thought that was a good character moment too when he let him through
he's
the
very
cave.
headstrong. He's also kind of selfless because once he realizes like his brother is like probably gonna die, he's like, I don't care. Like
He's all for it.
Schofield
I'm
even
doing
tells him
it.
like,
Oh,
you haven't been over the trenches like I have. He's like, you don't understand what you're doing, or like you can't make it. And he goes, I will. Like, don't like. Everyone tells him like it's
Yeah.
hopeless. He's like,
I'm
no,
gonna
I'll
make
do
it happen.
He's built. He's like, I'm no, you don't know me.
I just kind of thought of something while we were talking, kind of how Chris was saying the story was just like too linear. I think part of that might have been, and I thought this was really cool, that the director said that this was a story his grandfather told him, and that's why he that's how he got the movie. And if you think like
That
how
makes sense.
someone normally tells stories, like it's just like part A, part B, like
That makes sense.
just builds on a linear path. And I think
Mhm.
that's probably why it was structured like that, because it was just a story his grandfather told him.
It feels like a war story. Okay, yeah.
That definitely
Yeah.
changes the view on the movie a little bit.
Did no one else see
That's
that?
pretty
know that.
sick. I
Did
saw that
not
it
know
was
that. That's actually
dedicated
very interesting take.
to.
No, I didn't. I actually read some stuff too.
I know at the end it says it's dedicated to like whatever Mendez like, and it shows like the thing he served in or whatever.
Yeah, I did some research after, and it was just a story his grandfather told. So none of the characters are real people. It could be
But they're
loosely
based
based
off
on
real people.
reality. Yeah, but that's not like their real names or anything. But yeah,
That definitely makes it even a little more like impactful to me because I like the story a lot. The fact that it's real, I think, helps this kind of story for sure. Story about hope and like persevering. I think that's definitely better when not better, but more impactful when it's based on reality.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, Chris, do you have the wheel up?
Oh my god,
Oh.
I do have the wheel up. How did you know?
Chris
Can
is
you
the
put in a
wheel guy.
0.0?
He
Like,
is
can
the
you put in
wheel
like a
man.
1% chance of Twisted Pair? Does that work with this one or?
We'll get to
Of
that
Twisted
eventually.
Pair.
Yeah, we'll get there
to
later.
it.
I don't know if
We'll
that's
get
I
there.
say
necessarily
after
possible.
we get through everybody.
It's not my
Okay,
turn.
so
yet.
After we
two-
get through everybody, then we worry about that.
I do want to say, Sam, this was a good pick, though. I think
All right,
this
fuck with
movie
this
gave us a
movie.
lot to talk about.
Two people that haven't picked
I
a
agree
movie
that we
yet.
have not made a
pulling
bad
me.
choice yet.
Yeah, I mean,
just you
There's
wait.
definitely
Why
good
the color
movies
so
to
first?
talk about.
Just
for
you
sure,
wait.
for sure.
Just you wait.
Okay. Ignore this random advertisement, but
All
we're
right.
gonna spin the wheel to who can pick the next movie.
We'll work it out
Either
with a
me or
funny
Cole.
meme,
There's only
putting
two
John
people
on the
left.
spot.
So,
Oh my god.
Oh my god,
all right,
Oh
it's
my
looking like it's me.
Lord.
Fuck Cole.
Did not know
this
that.
sucks.
I wonder what he's gonna pick.
Okay. I would like to pick Train to Busan because none of these people have seen it for some reason, and I think it's a really good movie. As far as what it is, I think the title kind of represents what it is. It's it's a train ride to Busan.
That's it.
Zombies.
That's all. That's it. End it. Stop it there.
It's a zombie
That's all it is.
movie.
It's-
It's great.
It's just about a guy
These
riding a
people
train.
haven't
No,
seen
Chris.
it, so I figured it'd be a good movie to talk about.
It's
The
an
S in
avant-
Busan better be a Z.
It's it's like
Busan. Train to Busan.
Busan.
it's like a dialogue-less documentary about the train passage within Busan.
It really
Yeah.
tells you
Over the
about
course of a
would've
day.
liked to have told
intricacies of the South Korea.
about the history
the
of
kind
the
of characters you see
evolution of
commuters
train rides.
No,
throughout the
but
day.
it's,
yeah,
but it's a zombie
Korean
movie.
train documentary without subtitles.
and zombies.
Chris, explain it.
It's a zombie movie, which fits it fits the whole thing. It's the movie I'm picking.
All right.
I've heard
Let's
it.
run
I've
it.
heard it referred to as the
a
best
good
zombie
movie.
movie ever made. I've heard it's the best one ever
Ever
made.
I don't know about
That's
that,
what
but
I've heard.
it is a good movie.
Ever made. Well,
I've
zombie
watched
movie, yeah.
a lot of zombie movies. I'm a big fan, so I'm excited to watch this. I have only watched the first 15 minutes because I don't know why, but this movie, I started watching it and then was like, I don't know why I was like emotionally like I don't want to watch people die right now, and then never finished it. I don't know
you
why.
have like a visceral
I
reaction.
straight up, I was like, I had a random real reaction where I was like, I don't want to see this happen right now. There was like a cute kid, and I was like, I don't want to watch this cute
That's a
kid
spoiler.
die, and I
No!
stopped watching.
People die in this movie.
Oh my.
There's zombies.
I thought everyone was
There's
going
a
to be
train?
fine.
Oh,
I
Sam,
thought
you
this
need
was a lighthearted, fun movie.
I thought this was a rom-com about a busy businesswoman.
I thought it was a train
Plans a-
documentary.
Plans a
Is
lumberjack.
this not like a Korean Hallmark movie?
Is this not a shot-for-shot remake of Fireproof in Korean?
No. Oh, maybe.
I'd watch
That would be a masterpiece
I
if it
wouldn't
was.
watch that.
All right. Well, good pick, Chris.
Good
Thank
pick,
you.
Chris.
Excited.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm excited to watch it. So good call. Good call. Good call.
Good call.
All right. Goodbye.
Cut it.
Already.
We love you.
Blit.
Thank you for watching.
Film Friends Episode 3.